Your thoughts shape your future and determine your worth. Napoleon Hill once wrote, "What the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." And Henry Ford also said, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right." The way you believe in yourself can either open doors or place limits on your life. This story begins at a crowded train station, where a beggar survives each day on the pity of others. He has grown so used to holding out his hand for money that he has come to believe he has nothing of value to offer. But is a person truly poor because they have no money, or because they do not dare to change the way they think about themselves? Stay with this story until the end and take a moment to reflect on your own mindset today. Stay with this. One day, in the middle of the bustling crowd at the train station, the beggar noticed a well-dressed businessman stepping onto the platform. The man's neat suit and confident manner immediately made him think that this must be someone wealthy and generous. Hoping to receive more money than usual, he quickly approached and held out his hand to beg. But to his surprise, the businessman did not rush to give him money like everyone else. Instead, he looked straight at him and asked a very unusual question. Had he only ever received from others, or had he ever given anything to someone himself? The question left the beggar stunned, because no one had ever spoken to him that way before. Hearing the businessman's words, the beggar stood frozen, as if he had just awakened from a long dream. For the first time, he asked himself why he had always hoped to receive from others, while never once thinking about giving anything in return. The words were not insulting, yet they touched the very truth he had been avoiding for so long. That night, he could not sleep. He lay awake thinking again and again about that simple idea. If you want to receive, you must first learn to give. That moment of deep reflection sparked a new thought within him, that if he truly wanted to change his life, he first had to change the way he saw himself and the way he lived. After hearing the businessman's words, the beggar could not stop thinking about them. They echoed in his mind again and again, forcing him to look seriously at his life for the first time. He suddenly realized that for so long he had always hoped others would give to him, yet he had never once thought about creating something useful to give back. That thought kept him awake night after night, filling him with both regret and a deep desire to find a new path. For 2 days, he almost stopped begging altogether, because his mind was completely occupied with one question: what could he possibly give to others? Then, on the 3rd day, as he noticed wildflowers blooming beside the railway tracks, a spark of inspiration flashed through him. Perhaps this was the moment when his life would begin to change in a different direction. Just as he had reflected, the beggar began to change through one very small action. He picked wildflowers growing along the railway tracks and kept them with him. From that day on, whenever someone gave him money, he no longer simply bowed his head and accepted it as before. Instead, he smiled and handed them a flower in return as a small gift of gratitude. To his surprise, many people gladly accepted it. Some even smiled back and gave him more than they had before. Day by day, he came to realize an important truth. When you offer something of value, no matter how small, others are often willing to respond with even greater kindness and respect. One day, while giving flowers to the people who gave him money, the beggar unexpectedly met the businessman from years ago on the same old train. This time, he hurried over with obvious joy and said that today, he finally had something to give in return. Holding out the flowers in his hands, he asked the businessman to accept them as part of an exchange. The businessman smiled, took the flowers, and told him that he was no longer just a beggar, but someone who had learned how to do business. Those words awakened him completely, because for the first time, he understood that he too could create value. 6 months later, the beggar had become the owner of a small but popular flower shop. One busy morning, he was surprised to see the businessman from years ago walk into his store. The man was astonished to recognize that the former beggar had now become confident, well-presented, and full of determination. With a smile, he thanked the businessman, because it was that one sentence years ago that had changed the way he saw himself and his life. When we dare to change our thinking, we begin to discover our true value and create a better future. If you found this story meaningful and inspiring, comment the letter G